खमतु मे भन्ते। द्वितीयम्पि ओकासवन्दामि भन्ते। द्वारतयेन मया कृतं भङ्गपराधं खमतु मे भन्ते। तृतीयम्पि ओकासवन्दामि भन्ते। द्वारतयेन मया कृतं भङ्गपराधं खमतु मे भन्ते।
Then you can ask for 3 refuges and
Yes, Bhante. Okay, as today is Uposa today, I'm requesting for Ashtashil, precept for Ashtashil.
Yes, you can ask for 3 refuges and 8 precepts or 5 precepts.
8 precept Bhante.
Okay, today is new moon day.
ओकास अहं भन्ते तीसरणेन सद्भिः सह अष्टशीलं ब्रह्मं याचामि अनुग्रहं कृत्वा शीलं देथ मे भन्ते। द्वितीयम्पि ओकास अहं भन्ते तीसरणेन सद्भिः सह अष्टशीलं ब्रह्मं याचामि अनुग्रहं कृत्वा शीलं देथ मे भन्ते। तृतीयम्पि ओकास अहं भन्ते तीसरणेन सह आजीव सद्भिः अष्टशीलं याचामि अनुग्रहं कृत्वा शीलं देथ मे भन्ते।
Okay. Yamahang vadami tang vadet.
भन्ते।
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स। नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स। नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स।
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि।
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि।
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
संघं शरणं गच्छामि।
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
द्वितीयम्पि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि।
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
द्वितीयम्पि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि।
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
द्वितीयम्पि संघं शरणं गच्छामि।
Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
तृतीयम्पि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि।
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
तृतीयम्पि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि।
Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
तृतीयम्पि संघं शरणं गच्छामि।
Tisaranagamanang sampunnang.
आम्बन्ते
Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
पाणातिपाता वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समादयामि।
Adinnādāna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
दीनदाना वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समादयामि।
Abrahmacharya veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Brahmacharya Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami.
Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Savada Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami.
Surameraya majjapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Brahmerayamajjapamadatthana Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami.
Vikala bhojana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Kalabhojana Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami.
Nachya gita vadita visuka dassana mala gandha vilepana dharana mandana vibhusanattana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Natya Vadita Visukadasana Mala Gandha Vilepana Dharana Mandana Vibhusanathana Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami.
Uchchasayana mahasayana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Uchchasayana Mahasayana Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami.
Imang attanga silang samadhiyami.
Imang Attang Samadhiyami.
Imang attanga silang samadhiyami.
Attang Silang Samadhiyami.
Imang attanga silang samadhiyami.
Attang Silang Samadhiyami.
Tisaranena saddhing uposata attanga silang samadhayitva sadhukang surakkhitang kattva appamadena sampadetabbang.
Ambante
Silena sugating yanti silena bhoga sampada silena nibbuting yanti tasma silang visodhaye.
Sadhu Sadhu.
Samanta cakkavalesu atra gaccantu devata saddhammang munirajassa sunantu saggamokkhatam dhammasavana kalo ayam bhadanta dhammasavana kalo ayam bhadanta Dhammasavana kalo ayam bhadanta. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Tanhaya jayati soko tanhaya jayati bhayang tanhaya vippamuttassa natti soko kuto bhayanti. Friends, I have been asked to give a talk on Tanha, craving. This is a very big subject. It is, when we think about it, it is overwhelming. Everything around us geared towards arising craving. We are really inundated with craving. Through our eyes, we see so many objects, pleasant, beautiful, enticing, desiring, liking, visual objects, men, women, children, animals, trees, sceneries, and so forth and so on. Endless things there are in the world that arouse our temptation, desire. And ears, we hear all kind of sounds that creates craving, desire. Nose, smell. Tongue, taste. The body, tangible. The mind objects. There are 60 places every day where craving can arise. What are these 60 places? Let me mention 10 of them, then by that we can understand other 50. 10 places are like that. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind, 6. Then eye contact, seeing with the eye. Then consciousness arises. Third, craving arises through the eye, through the object and through the consciousness. When consciousness arises, contact arises. Craving arises there. When craving, contact arises, there is a feeling. Craving arises there. When we feel, we perceive. Craving arises there. What we perceive, we think. That is Rupa Sanchetana. Craving arises. Then we deliberate, we think about it. Craving arises. Then the craving arises from craving itself. And then we think more about it and we sustain this thinking. Craving arises. These are the 10 places where craving arises through the eye. Let me repeat this for you to remember. I simply mentioned the senses, sensory objects and so forth. I don't repeat the word craving arises, craving arises. That you can add, you can understand it. That is 1, eye, 2, visual objects, 3, consciousness, 4, contact, 5, feeling, 6, perception, 7, thinking, 8, craving, 9, deliberation, 10, sustained thinking, 10. Similarly, through the ears, 10, through the nose, 10, through the tongue, 10, through the body, 10, and through the mind, 10. This is how we have 60 places where craving arises. So we are really inundated with the craving. And the Buddha said in first sermon, evametassa kevalassa dukkha kandasa samudayo hoti. When the craving arises, that is the cause of arising of the mass of dukkha. That is called dukkha khanda. Dukkha khanda. Dukkha khanda means mountain. Mountain of suffering, dukkha means suffering. Mountain of suffering arises through the craving, Tanha. And that is so clear in when the Buddha gives sermons. He always emphasizes the cause of suffering is craving. We use the word craving, but there are many other synonyms, other words for craving. We say desire, thirst, lust, love, attachment, and so forth and so on. So many other words in English. In Pali there are many, many words just for craving. Tanha. And this tanha, this craving, is insatiable. It cannot be satisfied. By feeding craving, we cannot satisfy craving. No matter how much we feed the craving, it can never be satisfied. It is just like putting fuel into fire. Fire can consume anything you put in it, so long as it is not wet. Fire can burn. Similarly, craving, a desire, can consume anything, but it never comes to an end. And our samsaric existence, Buddha said, Anamatagoyam bhikkhave samsaro pubbakota napanyati avidyaya bhavatannaya, because the beginning of the samsara, beginning of our existence, is indiscernible. Indiscernible. Because of ignorance and craving. Craving is clinging. Ignorance blocks our view, understanding. Now these two go together. Craving and ignorance go together. That is why in Paticca Samuppada, Buddha mentioned the beginning is ignorance, and beginning is ignorance. Ignorance is the cause of suffering, and ending of suffering is the ending of ignorance. Now, in dependent origination, Paticca he said beginning is ignorance, ending of suffering is ignorance. In Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, he said, beginning is because of craving, and the cause of suffering is craving. End of suffering is craving. When we end craving, end suffering ends. So both work together. Because of craving, suffering arises. Because of ignorance, suffering arises. When craving ceases, suffering ceases. When ignorance ceases, suffering ceases. Therefore, these two work together. Where there is ignorance, there is suffering. There is craving. Where there is craving, there is ignorance. So these two work together. Where there is craving, ignorance is there. Where there is ignorance, craving is there. So when these two work together, suffering definitely is there. Ignorance is very, very difficult to overcome without understanding. Craving also we cannot overcome without understanding. So, for both we have to have understanding. Desire is, as I mentioned, is not satisfied, or desire is not what you call is satiate, satisfied. It is insatiable. Suffering is insatiability of craving. That's a very important thing to remember. Suffering means insatiability of craving. It is so difficult that Buddha explained things in with similes, and those similes are very powerful similes. Let me cite or bring out one of those similes. He said, "Na kahapana vasena tittikamesu vijyati appasadastu kakama iti vinyaya pandito api dibbesu kamesu ratinso nadi gacchati." Meaning is even if there is rain of gold, one would not be satisfied with that. Just to elaborate that, let me give you an example. Suppose you have a very big house. Just imagine the size of house. Maybe Rashtrapati Bhavan. Huge house you have. And one morning you wake up and you will see that night there was a sort of a leak in the roof of the house, that big house, and there was rain. That rain was a gold rain. That means it rained gold, not water, and filled the house, entire house, every nook and corner from basement to the ceiling, everywhere. You can see gold. When you wake up in the morning, you see this gold. This gold is so much, you cannot use it in your life. Even if you live 100 years, 120 years, you cannot use all this gold cannot exhaust. Your relatives, your friends and your villages, your country, even the entire country cannot finish this gold. So much gold is there. But when you wake up, you think and you say, I wish I had a bigger house. I wish I had a big house so that I can get more gold. You never say, my goodness, this gold is so much, I cannot use this. What can I do with this gold? I am so tired of even seeing this much gold. Why do I have this much gold? You never say that. You never say, you say, this gold is not enough. I wish I had a big house. That is a very beautiful example that Buddha gave to illustrate the danger of craving. Friends, we do various things. For instance, you give dana, various type of dana. You give material things, you give your energy, you give maybe cooked food or raw material or provisions, groceries and so forth, you give somebody. By giving, by sharing, you will be very happy. It is the giver who enjoys the gift, not the recipients. So you give. When you give, you will get in return, you will get more. In this life or in the next life. You may see that your wealth is dwindling, reducing, but when you know, according to karma, when you give something, you will get even better things. You are human beings now, maybe poor, not very rich, but next life, as a result of your giving, you become a very rich person, educated person, with a lot of money, a lot of friends, a lot of popularity and so on you get. Then somebody says that you have done meritorious deeds in the past, you have given some very much, and that is the reason why you became so rich now. And then in that life you think you must give more. So the next life you can get richer, or you can go to heaven. And then with that thought you give again. So you go on giving, then you get more and more, and then you become more and more greedy for doing good. So that is also not any happy situation, because that increases your desire, your greed. So, Buddha said, when that greed arises, we have sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair. That is the side not too many people look at. They don't look at the danger of craving. They try to entertain, they try to increase their craving, desire. So, Buddha's advice, I like to give many examples, but our time is short. So the desire is insatiable. That is, this example of gold is to show how difficult or rather impossible for an average person who does not understand Dhamma to overcome desire. And sometimes people say, desire is important. Surely desire is important for mundane life. You like to have a family. You cannot have a family without desire. You have to have a partner, then you have mate, and then you have children. Then you have to support them. You have to have a job and so forth and so on. You have to have these things. Otherwise you cannot live. So desire has sometimes people say desire is important. Surely it is important because of these reasons. When Buddha talked about that, some people in his time, when Buddha talked about against the desire, people in the past accused the Buddha for him trying to destroy life. But they say because they don't understand the danger of desire. However, desire has two aspects. One is called wholesome desire, other is called unwholesome desire. What is the unwholesome desire? Desire to increase desire, desire to perpetuate desire, desire to have more and more and more and more desire. As I said, when you give, you get more, and then you have desire to give more. And then you give, then you get more. That kind of desire is called desire to perpetuate desire, desire to increase desire, multiply desire. And there is another desire that is called desire to be desireless. Desire to be desireless. That means we have to understand the danger of desire, and we must try to get rid of desire. Desire to get rid of desire also a kind of desire, but that is a wholesome desire. This doesn't mean that one should try to be desireless overnight, all of a sudden, just after this talk. No, it is not possible. Why not possible? Because we have fed desire, nourished desire, cultivate desire through our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind in this life, and that desire is very strongly deposited in our mind. That desire is deposited. And taking it out of our mind very quickly is impossible. So, however, if we really want to be happy, to be peaceful, to be free from suffering, we have to get rid of desire. Suffering always caused by desire. Suffering is caused by desire. And it is the second noble truth. First is the suffering, second is the cause of suffering. And therefore we have to understand the nature of suffering. And this suffering or desire is divided into Kama Tanha, Bhava Tanha, Vibhava Tanha, three types. Kama Tanha, desire for sensual pleasures. Sensual pleasures, as you know, there are 5 chords of sensual pleasures. They are through our eyes, ears, nose, tongue and body. And that is the Kama Tanha. Kama means desire, Tanha means craving. Desire for enjoying. Desire for enjoyment is Kama Tanha. And the Bhava Tanha is the craving to be, to become. Craving to become. Craving to become, sometimes people don't understand very clearly. But if we take very simple, ordinary, mundane examples, we can understand this Bhava Tanha. For instance, you like to become a doctor. Becoming. Bhava means becoming. You like to become a doctor. You have to work and work and work very hard. You have to study to become a doctor. So that is a becoming. You want to become a lawyer. You have to work very hard. You have to become an engineer. You like to become a farmer. You like to become a builder. You like to become a farmer, what you call carpenter. You like to become this and this and this and this. All kind of things are there in the world for us to become. You like to become a student. You like to become a householder. You like to become a monk. You like to become a nun. You like to do this and that and so forth. All these called becoming. And then in this life, we try to become various things in this life, but the life is so short to become everything we want. Life is too short. I want to become a doctor, but I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't have access. So the desire is in me to become. And so forth, there are so many things I like to become. I like to be an astronaut. I like to become a pilot. I like to become an acrobat. I like to become a superstar. So forth and so on. There are so many becoming in this life. And then we cannot fulfill all this. We have a desire to become something or somebody in this life, but we cannot. And then with desire we die. And the next life also we have the same desire to be this. And that is called bhava tanha, craving for becoming. Now this becoming, you can see, is endless. This is called eternalism. Eternalism. We like to be someone eternally, never ending. So becoming this, becoming better than this, becoming better than that, that is a becoming. And then the other desire is called vibhava tanha. Vibhava means not becoming. Now, when you see becoming is so overwhelming, so much, it doesn't seem to have an end. It seems to be eternal, and we get tired of that eternal becoming. Eternal becoming. And we even have already become human now. So we think, boy, it is so tiring to become over and over and over again. Therefore, I don't want to become anyone. This life is enough. I don't want to have any more life. I have suffered enough in this life. So much poverty, so much hunger, so much sickness, so many things and so many things. Because birth is suffering, death is suffering, sickness is suffering, separating from someone is suffering, joining with somebody whom we don't like suffering. All this happen when we are born. If you are not born, none of these things happen. So I don't want to be born again. That is called nihilism. Nihilism. That is more materialistic view. So one view is eternalism, that is continuous existence in samsara, becoming. Other extreme is not to become at all. However, no matter how much we think of not becoming also is a desire. Becoming to be someone also is a desire. Now we want to avoid one desire and want to accept another desire. So there is no escape. This is what is called in English catch-22. Catch-22. You are trapped. Whether you like or whether you dislike, you are trapped. Both happens because of our desire. So, kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. But vibhava tanha, that means not to become someone, will not happen by your wishing. That is why the Buddha says, Jati dhammanam bhikkhave sattanam evam iccha uppajjati aho vata mayang jatina assama nacha vatano jating agacchayasi nakopanetang iccha pattabang. One who is subject to birth having gone through all these problems, might think, I don't want to be born again. May rebirth never come to me. By so wishing, the person cannot stop taking rebirth. Why is that? Because all the necessary and sufficient factors are accumulated, collected, built up and deposited in our mind to be reborn. Conditions are all prepared. Conditions are all ready. With this, all these conditions, you cannot say that you don't want to be reborn. So wishing it will never happen. And you will be born, whether you like it or not. Human, animal, divine, ghost, goblins, even hells, one can be born, whether one likes it or not. Why? Because the person has already committed sufficient karmas, the person has desire, ignorance, karma, consciousness, all are built up. Especially desire, so long as desire is there, the nature of desire is clinging. Tanha pacca upadana. In paticca samuppada, tanha pacca upadana. When there is craving, there is a clinging. When there is a clinging, there is a grasping, becoming. When there is a clinging, there is a becoming. And in this life, we may have done various things, wrong things perhaps, and unethical things, and breaking all the rules, and yet we don't want to be born, we don't want to be responsible for what we have done. We have committed very unwholesome things, killing, stealing, lying, and sexual misconduct and so forth. We have committed, and yet we think, well, I don't want to be reborn to bear the fruit of what I have done. I don't want to be reborn. However, we don't, even if we don't want, since we have prepared the background, since we have accumulated the necessary and sufficient conditions to be born, we will be born, even especially in the wrong place. Wrong place means a place with undesirable place, woeful state, painful state, hellish conditions. We don't want to be born there. However, when we have done something wrong, that keeps in our mind, collecting, accumulated in our mind, and then we think about it. We think, I have done such and such a wrong thing, I have killed so much, so and so forth, I have stolen, I have told lies, and I have committed sexual misconduct and so forth. You keep thinking about it. This thought you cannot hide. You can try to pretend to be holy and noble to other people, but in your own conscience, in your own mind, you cannot hide what you have done. It is there. That keeps coming to your mind again and again and again. And then, when you are going to die, the very thing that you don't like becomes something you like. For instance, suppose you don't want to be born as an animal, because animal life is always more suffering than we suffer. Animals suffer more than we do, and therefore you don't want to be born as an animal. But you have done so many things that are not ethical, moral, committing crimes and so on. You have done that. Therefore, at the moment of death, those unpleasant place appears in your mind as a very beautiful, attractive, desirable place. It is not attractive, peaceful and desirable, but because of your karma, that undesirable, bad, painful, woeful state appear in your mind to be happier state, beautiful state, pleasant state. And that instant you will die and take rebirth there. And therefore, as long as that happens because of desire, things that you did not like before appears to be very pleasing and pleasant and happy. When such thing appears in the mind, desire arises naturally, and then you die and take rebirth there. So, see the way the desire drags you here and there in samsara and make you unhappy in this life. And therefore, we must learn a way to reduce our desire. Don't try to get rid of it right away. This instant, you learn to get rid of desire very slowly, gradually, by simplifying your life. For instance, first you try to get rid of the things that you don't need. Get rid of them. Then you try to prioritize what you have. Then you get rid of the least priority things that you don't use very often. Get rid of that. And if you eat too much, then try to reduce your amount of food. Various things that you do to bring pleasure are not actually meaningful things. We can get rid of them gradually. For instance, you at the beginning of this talk, you undertook 8 precepts. The first precept is abstaining from killing. You don't have to kill to live. So you can get rid of the desire for killing. Stealing. We can get rid of the desire for stealing, taking things that were not given to you. You can restrain yourself in committing sensual misconduct. If you have been abusing your eyes, try not to abuse. If you have been abusing your ears, try not to abuse your ears, your ear. And then nose, tongue, body and mind. If you have been abusing them, try not to abuse. And use this body is neither good nor bad, but we have to use it as long as we live with understanding, with mindfulness. So we learn to reduce certain desirable things. Say for instance, singing, dancing and so forth, people do for entertainment, for pleasure, and thereby sometimes people waste their time. They don't have time to practice Dhamma, practice meditation. And for these reasons, we try to get rid of those things that are not beneficial for our spiritual growth. And thereby we slowly and gradually learn to reduce our desire, restraining our senses, reducing our consumption of various things. We learn to reduce the desire. As we learn to reduce our desire, we make it a habit. And that is how we slowly and gradually get rid of desire. And then, finally, one day we can get rid of entire desire. For that, we have to practice Dhamma, the Noble Eightfold Path. Noble Eightfold Path number 1 is right understanding. Right understanding is understanding of suffering, understanding of the cause of suffering, that is desire, understanding the end of suffering, and understanding the path leading to the end of suffering. That means understanding the Noble Eightfold Path itself is right understanding. So when we have that kind of right understanding, another right understanding is right understanding of impermanence. Everything is permanently impermanent. Everything is anicca, anicca. Whatever is anicca is dukkha, suffering. Whatever is dukkha is without permanent self. So this is understanding. When we understand dukkha, we understand the cause of dukkha, that is desire. Desire always causes suffering. Desire never causes a pleasure. Only desire that causes pleasure is the desire to be desireless. Only desire that causes pleasure and happiness and peace is the desire to be desireless. And therefore, today, friends, as I told Deepak, I can give about 45 minutes talk because this is our getting close to our lunch time and we had to do Buddha Puja and so forth. So I like to end this talk this morning and wish you all peace, happiness, and liberate from samsara by overcoming your desire. Our desire, it is a universal cause of suffering. We want to get rid of this. Then one day we can attain liberation from samsaric suffering. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you continue your Dhamma practice. Perhaps next month you let me know. If I have time, I give another talk next month. Okay?
Sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Bhante.
Okay.
Yes, Bhante.